Hey guys, welcome back to another video on how to factor. Again, we talked about this being one of the most important skills for the rest of your high school math career. So make sure that you're coming to the Google Meets on Mondays and Thursdays if that's a question that, if this is something that you're struggling with a little bit. Okay, rewatch the videos, do what you need to do. Now remember, we learned that factoring there was this idea that you try to figure out the two things that were multiplied together to give you that polynomial that they start off with. So let's look at a question in today's Do Now that asks you to go ahead and factor. So we'll do the bottom part in a minute, but let's look at the top part. It says to factor. So we look to see if there is a GCF. Remember, GCF is short for greatest common factor. So we looked, is there a number that divides evenly into all of them? I think it's 2. That's the biggest number. And do they all have a variable in common? Yes. I take the one with the lowest exponent, so that's just going to be 2x is my GCF. So that's one factor. Now I have to get my other factor, so I divide by each of these terms by 2x, and that will then give me the other factor. Okay, x to the third divided by 2x is 4x squared. 24x squared divided by 2x is going to give me 12x. And then 6x divided by 2x, the x's cancel, so I'm left with just plus 3. And there it is. It's factored. Okay, now the bottom part is just asking you to multiply. So when you multiply two things together, trying to figure out what you get for an answer, that's just multiplying. The working backwards parts of that's the factoring part. So let's skip this one and this one. Let's make this, and I'm actually going to change this one here. I don't know why I didn't do it before I started the video. Let's make this 2x minus 8. So we go back to this idea of like, okay, how do you multiply something? Well, we multiply 2 times 2x minus 8. And then we multiply 3 times 2x minus 8. And once we distribute both of these things, we'll combine like terms, and that will be our answer. So I'm just go ahead and distributing in my head here. Combine like terms, 4x squared minus 10x minus 24. There you have it. Now, in the coming days, believe it or not, what you're going to do is I'm going to give you this and ask you to work backwards and find that these were the two things that were multiplied. I'm going to ask you to factor that thing. Now, we're not there yet. That'll be in a couple of days, but that's where we're heading. The idea that, geez, it's not always a greatest common factor that's can get factored out when you factor it. That actually might be two things like this. And we'll explore a little bit of that today when we factor trinomials. Okay, let me clear off this screen. And moving into today's stuff. Imagine that I asked you to factor this. Probably look at that for a while and go, yeah, but there's no GCF here. I know, there is no GCF, but there is two things that do multiply to be x squared plus 7x plus 10. That does exist. Question is, well, how do I figure out what it is that would multiply to give me that? That'll be our goal today. Now, in order to do some of those, I want to keep a couple things in mind. We've done some multiplying before where we double distributed. And I've actually put a couple of examples down here. Here is the answer you get when you multiply x plus 4 and x plus 2. I don't have all the work there, but you get x squared plus 6x plus 8. And when you multiply 2x plus 3 times x minus 5, you end up with 2x squared minus 7x minus 15. Again, I didn't show all the work for those, but that is what you get. And our goal today will be, if I give you this, how can I go and figure out that these two things were what was multiplied? Or if I give you this, how can you figure out that this and this were the two factors that were multiplied. That's going to be our goal for today. That's the factoring that we're going to do. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to ask you to recognize a couple of things. Okay, so on the next screen, just want you to take a look at a few things that might at least help get us started with this. Okay, take a look at a couple of problems that I've already multiplied, x plus 6 and x minus 2. I want you to notice the values here that you get when you multiply. This is plus 4 and this is minus 2. I want you to take a look at these numbers here and see if you notice any relationship between those two numbers and the numbers that you get over here. Now, you don't totally get that same experience on the second one, but on the second one, there is sort of a relationship between this number, these numbers, and the numbers that you get over here as well. Now, if you're saying to me, hey, on the top one, you know what I noticed, Mr. Whaley, is that 6 and negative 2 multiply to be negative 12. You're right. If you said when you add them, you get this number in the middle, you're right. And if you're over here and you're going, well, look at those ones. Those two numbers multiplied to be positive 20. You're right. Now, the question might be, well, how do I get this negative 19 and how does that 3 come into play? We'll get into those. They're a little bit more complicated. But I want you to start to think about that idea that these two numbers that we use as our factors in our factors always should multiply to be the number at the end. Should always be the case. Okay, with that in mind, let me walk you through how we're going to factor this thing. Let's go back to that example that we had at the beginning, where I asked you to factor this, and there was no GCF. Okay, well, I'm going to teach you some method here that's going to kind of be a little bit abstract. Feel free, again, to come to the Google Meets if you're struggling to kind of follow along. All right, since there's no GCF, and listen to what I'm about to say, because there is no GCF, it must factor into two binomials. Now, because our answer here has an x squared at the beginning, these two things must be x and x in order that when we go to distribute later, we will end up with an x squared. So those have to be x and x. There's no other option for how these two things are going to start. Now, I know the numbers I choose here have to multiply to be 10. Well, there's a couple of different ways I can multiply to get 10. 10 times 1 or 5 times 2. Now, which choice should I use? Well, I also know that, I'll show you, if I use 5 and 2, we're going to do something called the smiley method to check to see if these are the right choices. When I multiply 5 times x, I get 5x. That's supposed to be the nose. And when I do 2 times x, I get 2x. That's supposed to be the mouth. That's called the smiley method. Well, do 5x and 2x combine to be 7x? Yes, they do. So that must be the answer that I'm looking for. Now, that's only if this is a positive 5 and this is a positive 2. So I'm going to put those signs on it. X plus 5 and x plus 2 are the factors. Now, let me just show you what would have happened if I had chosen 10 and 1 instead of 5 and 2. Well, 10 times 1 multiplies to be 10, somebody might tell me. Yeah, but 10 times x gives me 10x. 1 times x gives me 1x. Those don't combine to give me this 7x in the middle that I need. So that's why 10 and 1 won't work. Okay. Now, that was we went through one. I'm not going to leave you hanging. We're going to do another one together. We're not done yet. Okay, we're going to start with just ones that have an x squared in them for now. Okay, take a look at the following. X squared plus 6x minus 16. Ooh, there's a minus 16 here. Okay, so that brings in another element of challenge to us. So first I'm going to know that it's got to start off with x and x. It's the only way that I can end up with an x squared here at the beginning. Now, I need numbers that multiply to be 16. 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. Now, if I look at those, it doesn't look like any of them combine to be 6. But because this is a negative at the end, I'm going to be looking for numbers that can add or subtract to be 6. So let's see, what if I had chosen 1 and 16? Is there any way that that could work? Now, you might be going, obviously not, but let's just show it anyway. I'm not putting any signs yet. Notice I haven't put any signs in. So if I have 1 in x, 1 times x would give me 1x. 16 times x would give me 16x. Is there any way that 1x and 16x could combine to be this 6x in the middle? I don't think so. So that can't be it. It's not 1 and 16. Okay, let's try 2 and 8. So if I put 2 here and 8 here, 2x and 8x. Is there any way 2x and 8x can combine to be 6x if I add or subtract them? Well, if I add them, I get 10x, but if I subtract them, I could get 6x if this were a negative 2. Because then 8x and negative 2x would be positive 6x. So that's it. This has to be a minus 2. This will be a positive 8. And I've just factored. My factors are x minus 2 and x plus 8. Those numbers multiply to be negative 16, and they combine, when I combine them, to be positive 6. When I do the Smiley method, it works. Those are the ones, x minus 2 and x plus 8. Now, there's only one combination of numbers that this will work for, so don't worry if you're thinking, well, is that definitely the only one? It's the only one. All right, we'll do one more, and then that'll be it for today. Those ones are not just x squared. So I thought we would get this far today. Let me change this one out. Cross it off. Here's the one we're going to do. X squared minus 3x minus 18. Okay. So, because it starts off with x squared and there's no GCF, I always check for GCF. There's no GCF. It's going to factor with x and x. Okay. Now, numbers that multiply to be 18. 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. That's it. Now, I can start to look at those and realize like there is no way that 1 and 18 could ever give me 3, negative 3. So that's not going to work. There's no way 2 and 9, if I add them or subtract them, could give me negative 3 either. So I don't think that's going to be it. But let's try it anyway, just for the sake of trying it, just to show you. If I put 2 here and 9 here, let's see. 2x, smiley, 9x. Nope, 2x and 9x can't give me negative 3x. Not going to work. But we already knew that. So it's going to have to be 3 and 6 somehow. All right, well, let's try 3 and 6. 3x and 6x. Now, how can 6x and 3x give me a negative 3 in the middle? Well, if this is negative and this is positive, that would combine. When I say combine, I mean add them together. That'll combine to give me a negative 3x. So that means my 6 is going to be negative, and my x is going to be positive. And there are my factors. X plus 3 and x minus 6 are the two factors here. Done. I factored it. Okay, so tonight for homework, you're going to see a bunch that are just like that. Now, when I say a bunch, I'm really only talking about 5 of them. Rewatch the video if you need to, but remember, as long as there's an x squared out front, it needs to start off with x and x. Then we're choosing numbers that multiply to be the number at the end. And when we do the smiley, we'll combine to be the number in the middle. All right, best of luck. Remember, on Wednesday, I'll be on the Google Meet. If you need to see me, I'll be there at 10 a.m. Good luck.